Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you, and I'm glad we got introduced at the recent Forward event. Neil Dringra, shout out. Was that your first time there?
It was my first time in the best event that I have ever been to, hands down. Just the caliber of speakers in that room. I mean, I would have, Neil, don't go jacking up the prices, but I would have paid 3 times what I did to be in that room to hear the things we did from the people. So just fantastic event. Definitely will be a staple for me moving forward.
Fantastic. I agree. That was my 3rd time. I only missed the very first one. And Neil knows this. Neil and I have known each other for a number of years, but his very first one was small, right? I mean, it only had, I think, under 100 people roughly.
Yeah.
Right. So quite the growth in just 3-4 years to now 1,000 people.
Amazing. I mean, Alex or Mosey, come on, craziness. Yeah.
I know.
So good.
That was good. Good. All right. So for people who don't know who Katie Grimes is, what do you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah.
Did I just say who Katie? I said that right, didn't I? Do I have to edit that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you want to share?
That's me. I'll answer to anything these days. So.
All right. Go ahead.
So I am obviously female loan officer here in the mortgage space. I am born and raised in Kansas. I was born in Western Kansas, moved to the Kansas City proper several years ago. So it's kind of where I've grown up and done my thing. So we kind of straddle the state line. So we're unique in that about half of our business happens in Kansas, half happens in Missouri. So we kind of have to pivot on both areas because different states certainly have some different nuances. So I am in my 7th year in the mortgage industry. So done pretty well in that 7 years. I had a former life as a escrow manager in the title space. So my grandmother and mother were both real estate agents. And so when it was time to get a big girl job, I went to title. So I started typing title commitments at age 19. I didn't take a super traditional route. I actually was a young single mom at a pretty young age, and so started working, typing title commitments. I did not earn a college degree, so it's been a little bit of a different path for me, but something that I'm pretty proud to show people. You can have some obstacles in life and not do something exactly the way that maybe society thinks you have to be in order to be successful. So, so I did about 13 years in the title space, grew a pretty good book of business, was very, very busy closing and managing. Ultimately, I think I just wanted to feel more purpose in the transaction. By the time you get to the end closing table, people are exhausted, they're grumpy, they're stressed, right? So I just was feeling like there's got to be a way for me to make an impact, in a little bit of a deeper and more meaningful way. So I ended up meeting somebody in the mortgage industry. She kind of said, "Hey, what do you think about coming over to the mortgage side?" And my experience as a closer, which mortgage people, here's a tip, treat your escrow closers like the best, because I will tell you that there are some really, really amazing opportunities for referrals and, recommendations from that side of the transaction. But kind of being in that chair, my interpretation of what a loan officer does was basically never answers their phone, is always on the golf course, and it was just very used car salesy. That was sort of the impression that I had at the time. And so I'm like, no, absolutely not. Mortgage is not for me. I am not that person. Relationships relationships are the most important thing, for me. So, I kind of molded over a little bit and started thinking, okay, well, if this is sort of what the norm is, and I know that really probably isn't serving clients at the best, in the best possible way, what could I do maybe to, kind of flip that? And so I, in 17, I resigned from my job, jumped in, had no deals and no idea what I was going to do. And I joke around, like my husband and I, we love the lake. We've talked about that lots of times. We had a boat fund that we were kind of saving at the time for a boat, and I took that boat fund, and that was our
Really?
like plan. Like either this is going to get us through, and I'm going to close some loans, or I'm going to go back to title, and we're not getting a boat. So, thankfully it ended up working out pretty well. So I am now the #1 female loan officer in Kansas, #2 overall in the city, and we're closing lots of loans and changing lots of lives. So
Congratulations, really.
thank you.
I mean,
Yeah,
that is
super exciting.
That's a quick ride, 7 years, top 100 in the country, #1 in your state.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
it's been pretty fantastic. Certainly the market has helped. But we're maintaining, we're staying stable over the last couple of years. Certainly things have shifted a little bit, and we're growing here locally. I've recruited several loan officers to our branch and starting to look at some other avenues. I know we've talked about coaching and things like that. So I think I'll always love doing loans, like that's
Sure.
the top thing, but all of these other, ways that I can help impact the mortgage community have been really, really wonderful too. So.
And if I'm following you on, we'll put links to all the stuff we talk about, like your Instagram in the show notes. But if the Instagram is accurate, something tells me that the boat fund took care of itself. Right.
It did. So it did. Like long story short, a couple years in, I surprised my husband with a boat, and this past summer he got a new boat.
Nice.
So,
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Lots
He
of
does a
hard work.
lot. So yeah, he deserves it. He's definitely the MVP of our household. So takes care of all the things so that I can, do what I need to do.
So you can be a superwoman. Speaking of your Instagram profile, I went there, and you have a very structured profile, bio on there, I should say. So let me just go to it and just double check. Your little tagline on there is, "I save home buyers time and money."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very rare that I see a mortgage professional, even real estate, right? I mean, real estate a little bit better, but most mortgage originators don't have a well-structured bio. When did you add that? Like, what prompted you to do that?
So, I think I have tweaked my profile over the years here and there. I've had that tagline for a couple of years now. I think, my ultimate goal is especially in this industry, we talk in language that the average person just can't comprehend or understand. How can you help me, right? And so my goal in that is to be so simple that when you come and you check out my page, like you're gonna immediately know, like, hey, I'm for you or I'm not, because most of the time, people, tend to have a lot of hesitations around buying a house or looking at their finances. It's a scary process and situation, certainly. And so I think, being really, really clear on what problems you solve, right? And those happen to be the two biggest things or hurdles in someone looking at home financing options, right? They equate it to, like, I say this a lot, but like, I know that there are people that would rather go to the dentist and get a root canal than have me pull their credit, so, and in feeling like it's going to be a long drawn out process, it might be expensive. So I think time and money certainly are the biggest things that you have going on, in terms of obstacles. So if I can just immediately within the first few seconds of you coming and checking out who I am, say, here, this is what I'm about and what I'm here to help you with.
Is Instagram your kind of #1 social profile or place where you hang out most?
Yeah, I mean, we love Instagram. I think it's the one that I've sort of taken a liking to the most. We do post on other platforms. I think what people want to see from the platforms is different. In Instagram for me, I'm a very visual person, so I think it helps that, you've got stories and reels and things that you can actually, sort of absorb that way, versus Facebook, I think, is sort of more short form, like written content tends to do better. And so we will tweak those things on all of the platforms for our audiences, but I think we get by far the most engagement on Instagram. It could be an age thing. I'm, in that sort of middle-aged range that seems to be where people are hanging out. I think we have a Snapchat and a TikTok, but I wouldn't know what to do with them.
I've never been on Snapchat, so
yeah.
I think, identifying where your audience is at. But we're, back to your Instagram. The other thing cool, so you think about this, right, is when people are going to check you out online, I know you know this, but this is for the listeners, like this is why how you show up online, when they look you up, what do they find? Like that's the question. And so when I first came to your Instagram page, and I first of all called out, well, let me do it this way. So the first thing I see at the very top is #1 female loan originator in Kansas, right? Top 100 woman LO in the U.S. Then there's the line, I save buyers time and money. So already what I've got instantly, just by a quick glance in 3 seconds, is I've got credibility, right? But then what I've got is now you make it real, or humanize. This is what you do. You humanize it because you go on to say lake bum and 90s rap expert. Which immediately is like, to your point a second ago about like, the daunting idea of getting a mortgage, pulling credit, all that. All of a sudden it's just like, oh, finally, like this human that I can relate to, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am just a normal person, just like everyone else. I've been here, there, and everywhere in between with my own finances and situation. And so I think, as weird as I might be sometimes with my little quirks of loving 90s rap and things like that, I mean, it's who I am, right? And actually, it's happened once. I did have somebody reach out and say, I'm specifically wanting to work with you because of the rap comment. So like, you just, like, case in point, your people will find you, And so I have this saying, and it's really ironic. Like, I didn't make it up, but I've heard it and I've always kind of lived by it. But I actually, it was repeated at Neil's Forward event of like, I'd rather be like disliked for who I am versus liked for somebody I'm not, right? Yeah. So I think just authenticity is really big for me. So. And
then the last thing I have to ask about, I actually Googled this. Tell me about the ISO, Perfect Espresso Martini. What's that all about?
So ISO is in search of.
Oh, okay. It's search.
So I am
old.
In search
I'm old.
of the perfect espresso martini. So, all right. So here's the thing. Like, I love a good cocktail. I am very snobby about my espresso martinis. It has to be the perfect, equation of coffee and the liquor, and then I gotta have like a little bit of creaminess in there, but it's all about the ice crystals. And you've got to get that right. And so I will dabble in them and try them everywhere. And I'm still kind of searching for, so we do make them at home, but they're just not the same. Like it's a very hard cocktail to perfect.
You got to chill the glass, all that stuff.
Yeah, totally. So
all right, so
I am on the hunt. I had one in Vegas that probably was like top tier. So that's sort of the framework. But yeah, I will continue to search Kansas City for the best one. So any Kansas Cityans that have like some places I need to try,
that's awesome.
I'm there.
Maybe you need to get sponsored by, Grey Goose or somebody. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
All right. See, this is the human side, personal side of it. Now we're a little bit acquainted with Katie and who she is, and that's cool. Let me ask a question that I often ask people, which is, what is your #1 source of business?
Yeah. So I am probably, I need to kind of check because I feel like this year it's been a little bit different, but I am primarily realtor referral based. I am a full, blown retail loan officer. We don't buy leads. We are, and that's just because that's what I know, right? When I was in title.
Yeah.
Right. I was in title. My clients were real estate agents. It's in, my parent, my mom. And so it's just what I know.
Do you know that world well? Did you feel
Yeah.
when you transitioned over that you were comfortable approaching agents because of that because your whole thing?
For sure. I mean, I think, it definitely helped. But I will say what's really ironic is I do still have some really, really great clients in terms of realtors that I worked with on the title side. But most of my best realtor referral partners now are people that I did not work with back then, that I've just met over the last few years who have now become some of my very, very close friends. I think the biggest thing I can attribute it to is I'm really big on whether or not it feels easy, right? If it feels really hard to create a relationship with somebody, most of the time, there's an energy situation or something. And so I really, really search for the people that are my people, right?
Yeah.
We're sharing commonalities. We're going through life together. I vacation with a lot of my referral partners. I am all about really, really deep and meaningful relationships.
Okay.
Because I really think that if you pour value into the people that you care about the most, that's always going to be reciprocated. And so not only, of course, do they trust me with their clients and their business, but they're also doing life with me, which what better awesome thing can you have than to work with people that you love? So.
Oh, and I appreciate that. So it's funny, whenever this somebody like you shares that, and I've asked many people that same question, and I would say 8 out of 10 times that I've asked that of quote unquote top producers, that's what they say, realtors is number one. And yet, and I'd be curious to get your opinion on this because you're involved with growth only coaching, and you interface with other agents and Amir and the whole gang. There's this. Do you see this movement or this narrative of trying to move away from real estate agents as a significant source of business? And I'm curious to see or get your opinion on that whole narrative that's bubbling up and realtors suck and, all the stuff that you hear.
Yeah.
What's your take on all that?
I mean, and trust me, I get it. Do I think that the consumer should come to us first, get the financial piece in place, get the proper advice, and then go to the realtor? 100%. That really is how it should be done, right? You should be able to check your situation and know what you can do before, moving to that next step. But let's face it, we're all human, right? And so when you are thinking about something big like this, the first thought that goes through someone's head is the excitement of it, right? Not the tedious tasking of submitting pay stubs and W-2s. Exactly. And so as much as we want to try to fight it, this is just how it works, right? Yeah. They want to call the realtor. They want to talk about their wish list. Oh, I want that man cave. I want the, remodeled kitchen. I want the amazing backyard fire pit, all of those things, because those generate warm and happy feelings, right? Yeah. But here's the thing, people make decisions from here, their heart, not their head, right? And so I think if we try to reverse that, our success levels aren't going to be as high because we're going to go through the numbers. I actually think when they talk to the realtor first and they get their kind of wish list in their area and they get so excited and they're moving forward, if they come to me and now I tell them, okay, to get all of that, here's your payment, and that payment was probably maybe a little bit over what they initially, had earmarked, they're still going to do it, right? Because in their, they are now bought in and invested, and they have this vision of what could be for their family. And so, we may make a few adjustments to their budget or pay some debt off or something like that to make it work. But I think if we always talked numbers and always got to the client first, they don't have that vision of excitement, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people would maybe decide, hey, maybe we'll pause, maybe we'll hold off, because the numbers just aren't as sexy.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you've bought into the dream, okay, we're going to go buy a house or whatever, because you have that emotional investment, you run into some headwinds with financing, for example. because it started with that dream, you're like, okay, well, hey, we still want to
make
do
it work.
this, right? Instead
Yeah.
of reverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a bigger incentive to break through. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Then talk to me a little bit about what are the types of activities that you tend to engage in to attract and engage realtors?
That's a good one. So yeah, I think, in terms of like my process, and this is what I tell everybody, like I am no different than any other mortgage loan officer reaching out to agents. I just call a lot of them and I connect with a lot of them, right? It's a law of averages. So
Right.
I kiss a lot of frogs too, right? I will meet people that there's no connection with or
Yeah.
something. So the more connections you make, the more opportunities that will come your way. It
There you
is
go.
math. That's it. It's
That's
just
a double
math.
click right there.
Yeah. So I do my best to, certainly connect with as many as I can. I'm a big fan of what I call the buddy system. So I will reach out to a great referral partner of mine. I do these check-ins every couple of months of, hey, how are things going? Like, what's something I can do better to serve you and your team? Also, like, I'm looking to add a referral partner. If you have somebody in your office or a co-op agent that you worked with lately that you think is like just amazing, that I would, I'd love an opportunity for an introduction. So I'm huge on that, just simply because then it's not a total cold, contact. It's you've
Right.
got somebody that already knows how you operate and knows your service level, who is endorsing you to somebody else. So I use my sort of raving fans a lot to create more raving fans, which is awesome. I am doing a million events. I am always out and about. I am still doing open houses. I mean, we close a lot of loans, and I'm doing one Saturday and Sunday for a couple of hours this weekend. So, like,
Okay.
I don't really stop
You're
with
doing the
those
fundamentals.
activities. Yeah.
Yeah. On
Very
my
much.
whiteboard over here, I have if I could say it, be brilliant in the basics. Right?
Totally.
And so many people want to something the bright shiny or hit the easy button. And this is what I've discovered, having been here now for 8 years doing this podcast, 300 plus interviews, like, I hear a pattern, and people like yourself and other people that are in the high achiever club, they tend to focus on the fundamentals, get those nailed down, and then layer in the other elements such as video, social, whatever. Like, that's a key part of
Right.
it. But if you don't have your fundamentals down,
Exactly.
What have you found? Real quick sidebar from the social thing. Have you been able to generate business from social yet?
So here's what I will say. Do I get clients that reach out to me on social asking to come, for a loan consultation? No, I don't. But here is what I believe, and we teach this at Go too.
Right.
But you need to do the best you can in terms of becoming a modern loan officer to be seen before you're known, right? So if I can get my social branding out there to where people are seeing my posts, seeing my content, seeing my value, seeing my education, seeing my face, like when they come across my name on an offer or we meet at an event or something like that, they're like, oh, I know who you are. And so that's the goal, is that it gives you credibility, and just I think that that's really important. I have had some good success in connecting with new referral partners via social. Like, they'll comment on a post or something like that, and then it's sort of a segue into a conversation that we can continue offline and meet in person. But I also I'm doing the social posting and in doing social marketing, but nothing's gonna beat just face to face, voice to voice. Like, again, spoiler alert, you're not gonna fill your pipeline with people from social media.
Well, and again, everybody hopefully listening understands we're not saying that social doesn't have its place or its value and that you can't get clients
Correct.
directly. You can. I mean, I've had people on this podcast.
Absolutely does. Yeah.
I do have some people who've gotten business, but here's the thing I always say, which is, if you're focused on purchase business, and I got in this business in 2003. Okay, so I have yet to find, and I will debate this. I want to have my own debate, I guess, with whoever wants to take it on. It's usually people selling ad services, but the debate is why the Realtor card? Why am I personally, and why do you and other quote top producers still seem to be playing that Realtor card? Which is, social. It's because I've yet to find a higher converting, lowest cost, ease of, what do you call it? Engagement. Usually I have a better way to say this, but today I don't.
Right.
Highest converting, lowest costs, right? Quickest time path to get to closed deal. Like there isn't a better one than a referral.
Right. Well, it's the most direct route to the need.
Right.
If they're reaching out to a realtor, they need your services,
There you go.
right?
They've raised their hand and said, I'm a prospect. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Whereas,
by the time they get to realtor, the timeline that is usually quite shorter.
Exactly. Like the social is absolutely important, in terms of creating, a sustainable business with lots of different, streams of where you're getting your business. But, you're relying on the people that have the need to see your content. And so that could look very different for lots of people, right? Like if you're a younger loan officer and you've got lots of people that are still just renters, like your friends that you're connected with on social are the ones that are seeing your content, but they're not the ones with the need right now, right?
Yeah.
They might be in a couple of years. So I think it's just, like I said, it's just the most direct route to the people that are actually needing you.
Okay. I'm going to go tactical now for a moment, if you don't mind. I'm going to open a couple of tabs on my browser over here.
Okay.
And I'm going to look at some data. I use Redder. Do you know Redder versus MMI for looking up loan officers?
So I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Real estate track record.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have
Good.
that.
And by the way, if you don't know Redder, check them out. RETR.app, I believe is what it is. I know Steven, the co-founder.
Yeah, we've got
a
subscription to that.
Yeah. But anyway, the reason why I use this data is because, LOs like to look up other LOs. But what I get curious about is when I look at like your top buyer agents by transaction count year to date, I see Amy Jacobson in there. Does that name ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay. Is she how would you articulate her? Is she a buyer's agent? What is she?
She does both. She does primarily do most buyers. Here's what's great about Amy is that, like I said, she's a raving fan. So my conversion rates with her clients, I am at almost nearly 100%. And something cool about Amy is that she has only been an agent for a couple of years, and she's killing it. She's killing it.
All right, well, check this out. If this is accurate, according to this year you've closed 5 deals with her?
We probably closed more than that.
Yeah, you never know with these numbers, but at least in terms of, she seems to be one of your top agents for referrals.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We're
usually closing at least 1 to 2.
Okay.
So Amy and I got connected. She joined a team with Georgianne Hayhow, who's another OG, amazing real estate agent here in Kansas City. I've known her for years. We're very close. She joined her team. And so I got an introduction through Georgianne, again, raving fans, right? Like stick to the people who can, support you and encourage you and want to see you succeed. And so Georgianne gave me introduction to Amy. Amy had somebody that she knew in the industry at the beginning. And so we actually didn't start working together right off. But over some time, she, gave us the opportunity, and then, we've been taking great care of our clients ever since. So I think when Amy is communicating with her clients, the importance of using a quality lender, she's really fantastic at that. And she will say, at the end of the day, you can use whoever you want, but I'm going to tell you that having Katie's name on a pre-approval letter almost doubles your chances of getting it, accepted, which is like something I'm super, super proud of. Nothing makes me feel better than when a client or an agent calls me and says, the listing agent said they accepted your offer because you are the lender. Like that's when you're doing stuff right.
Yeah, I love that, which makes me think or be curious about what do you do or have you trained, your agents around the tee off, the handoff, you know, to edify you and back and forth? Do you have any structured process around that you've coached them, you know?
So we certainly make some suggestions from time to time and things like that. I think, you know, again, I'm getting so intimate with these realtors, right? They know who I am. They know my family. They know my kids. They know what hobbies I have. They know the music I like to listen to. They know the restaurants we love to go to. So it's more about like they just really know who I am at the core, and that's so much easier to explain to a client when you really know, like, and trust somebody, right? And so that's the goal, is to always, you know, go the distance with your referral partner to where, you know, does everything go perfectly all the time? It doesn't, right? But I know that if we had a hiccup on one of Amy's files, she's not out the door, you know, because she knows who I am, and mistakes can happen, and, you know, sometimes things can get messy, but like that's when good stuff happens, when you're not like trying to be perfect all the time. And so I think, you know, it's easy for her to communicate my value because she knows who I am. And I do a good job at expressing that value too.
Sure.
But,
so that level of relationship and connection you have helps her just without a script communicate value because she feels it and she believes it, right? And you guys have that vested relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, not all relationships are like that. And that's one of the areas I see a lot of originators missing the mark, is coaching the agents on how to do the handoff, and then vice versa. Like what we often do is we kind of do a role play where, let's say you're the agent, and you know, Bill and Mary called me and said, hey, I'm working with Katie Grimes, and she said to call you, right, because you're like an awesome lender, whatever. So the first thing I'm going to do is edify Katie, right? I'm going to say, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Katie's one of the best agents in all of the state of Kansas. She's been in business X years, blah, blah, blah. Boom, just blow the socks off of Katie. You know what I mean? I think that is such an easy thing to do. That,
for sure.
That if you told realtors, hey, here's how I'm going to edify you, right? You're now coaching them and like, so this is like, I'd like to be edified in a similar way. Does that make sense?
Completely. Yeah. I think there's no better way to show your gratitude for a realtor that's going out of their way to say, here, just talk to her, than to reciprocate that to the client and say, you're in the best hands.
Right.
So
they're unsure.
You know, we have great templates for that kind of thing. And, you know, we certainly will, you know, offer those when a new realtor partner comes onto the team. We give them sort of a little breakdown. Hey, here's this, you can use these things. But I will tell you, like most of my realtors, they'll just copy me on a text with the client. And I like to reach out to the client. I don't like to wait for the client to reach out to me. But it's my personal cell, you know, they can get me at 7:00 on a Friday night if they need to, right? Like, so I think that I don't want to make the process too formal in that sense. And so, you know,
it's going to
certainly
vary, you know, I mean, let's just face it. It depends on where these relationships are at. Some agents some of the relationships have gotten lazy, the dynamic between the two, you know? So not to go to super dip. Okay.
Well, and what like to that point, like what I've noticed a little bit lately is agents just with business, you know, being a little bit slower and a little bit harder, the deals are a little bit harder. They're not wanting to rock the boat quite so much. So if a client comes and they say, oh yeah, I'm approved with Rocket Mortgage, not that there's anything with Rocket, but, or something along those lines, like like what I'm noticing a lot is before they may have pushed that envelope a little bit and said, hey, that's great, but like, here are a couple of local resources I'd love. Like a lot of them right now are like, well, it's just a deal. And I got to make sure that I can get, you know, some money in the door. So I just don't want to, you know, push that envelope a little bit. But, you know, those are always the deals we come in and save in 10 days and, you know, close at the last minute. So I
like the second opinion approach. I've heard that one used a lot. Like the realtors, like, hey, that's fine, you're with Rocket, but would you be open to a second opinion, right? That kind of approach.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Okay, so I want to also kind of dig in a little bit on this, seeing as we're pulling on the realtor thread for the time being. If I jump back into Redder, this is what I also find with people who are doing a large amount of transactions like yourself, is like there's this, what I find is this, is that if 80% or whatever percent of your business is from realtors, right? That, in my experience, when I look at all this stuff, is spread across not a few realtors, but many realtors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you trying to, this is me being curious, are you trying to consolidate any of that? Are you trying to like go after teams and, you know what I mean, concentrate more? Or is this just a nature of the beast and you're fine getting, 2 deals a year from a realtor?
Well, I think here's the thing. If you put all your eggs in one basket of a larger team, which let's be honest, like I think we all would love to have, I think you call them
That's what
whales,
we
right?
believe, right?
But if you put all your eggs in that basket
Yeah.
and something happens and that relationship goes away, you've got nothing.
Yep.
And so I am of the belief that I would rather have a little pie from a lot of different pies than one whole pie from one, right? Because if that pie gets discontinued,
Yeah.
you're kind of screwed, right? So
All right.
that's kind of my thought process. I will say, like, at the same time, I can't control like what comes my way. All I can do is just make the connections and make the contacts. And I think that there have been times that those numbers have looked a little bit different. I think this year it's just different for everybody. It's different for the real estate agents. Most of my real estate agents are down quite a bit. They may be a little bit more listing heavy this year than buyers. And so, those are all just circumstances that are out of my control. So I try not to, focus too much on what am I getting from one particular person. I think that sort of those A+ relationships, like I call them, are really important. But if you get too many of those, like it's really difficult to try to show up at that level for all of them, right? So.
And how do you then, what are the strategies or tactics you use to stay top of mind across many agents?
So, I think we do a lot of different things, but I'm really big on just acts of gratitude. So I will, send a voice text spontaneously telling them how much I appreciate them and how grateful we are for our partnership. I'm pretty big on events around town. I do a ton of charity work, so I will invite them to sort of, some fun events. We're hosting a big rooftop event down in downtown Kansas City this weekend. So I've got about 40 of my realtor partners coming with their spouses. So this is a great thing, right? Because we're giving back to a charity, but we also get to have a good time. We do a lot of pop-bys. We will do classes. But sometimes it's just a phone call, right?
Right.
Just to remind them of like, hey, I really, really appreciate you. And
it's a connection
I think
business.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things to do, I think, with my referral partners is do I kind of call it like a walking break bread. So if you have realtors that are really busy and on the go and like you're trying to get them to coffee or lunch or something like that and it's just not working out, I invite them to like just jump over to, we've got a local park here that's like 5 minutes away from my house that everybody kind of knows. And it's like, hey, let's go for a walk, because everybody is trying to get out and get some movement and get a workout in. And so I'll just meet them over there in the morning for like a quick 45-minute walk. You're moving, you're talking a little business, you're, catching up with them. That's really valuable. It has been for me.
For guys, that can be the golf course, I guess, right? For the guys who don't want
Yeah, true. And I like to golf too, but that's a little bit harder. It's a longer
period.
It's a longer time block on the calendar for sure.
Yeah, I think the takeaway from this is whatever opportunities you have to connect, right? And I say connect with an underline. Connect in a meaningful way, not in a, hey, I'm trying to get something from you, right?
Right.
This is just, hey, appreciate, even if it was like 6 months ago, which is now probably a good transition to get into with the remaining time we have, the NAR situation, all that's happening around that. I'm curious what activities you might be doing around that, either communication-wise or, showcasing how you can help with the buyer agent compensation, whether it's commission gap stuff, anything around that that you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm actually teaching my first class on Monday, and then we have another one on September 12th. That I am going to present, from a lender's perspective of what we're doing. I think the biggest thing that I'm focusing on is supporting the realtor and their value and, just reiterating to all of my clients that, hey, this really has how it's always been. It's just the requirements now are that we just have to be a little bit more transparent and open with the process. It's changing a little bit, but commissions have always been negotiable, and they will remain that way, right? At the end of the day, a seller wants two things, and they want certainty, and they have a number in their mind that they want to walk away with. As long as we can complete those two things, having the certainty piece of having the reputation and the backing of our company, we can get, files reviewed very, very quickly. So I am working on improving some, even thinking outside the box, right? Moving up a loan contingency period to a shorter period of time, doing some things like that to where we're giving that seller the peace of mind to know, okay, this isn't going to fall apart on day, 29 if we have a 30-day contract. We're going to get this through underwriting fully approved within 5 days. So we're doing some things like that I'll, be kind of teaching my realtor partners about, that we can come in and here are the things that we can do. But, as long as you're meeting those two needs of the seller, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Do you know, so you're in the state of Kansas, right?
So I live in Kansas. Our office is in Kansas, but we do kind of cover both sides of the state line.
Have you had buyer broker agreements required already? Prior to this
So we have, those have been required. However, they've not been required. The biggest difference there is for an agent to even open one door, they now have to be under a buyer's representation. So that's going to be a little bit different. And case in point, that's why I'm going to open houses this weekend. And I'm going to do it every weekend that I can, because a buyer, just to kind of kick the tires and see what a house looks like, to have to sign that, buyer's agency, agreement, I think they may sort of hesitate a little bit on that, just because unless you're really serious about going, you may just not want to do that right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see a lot more buyers going to open houses and checking out homes on their own, which can be equally as dangerous. So I want to be there to help answer questions and help facilitate the right thing. But if you're a real estate agent, you want to be booking some open houses, because I am really confident that this is going to be a thing, that we're going to be dealing with quite a bit. So that's the biggest significant difference in our market is now, you can't just, I couldn't call up my buddy, my friend realtor, and say, hey, go show me this house because I just really kind of want to see it, and I've done that in the past before.
Sure.
That can't happen anymore.
Yeah, there's a few things in there. One, before I get into the open house thing, are you then in these classes, events, or discussions with agents, are you showcasing, I'm wearing a First Home IQ ambassador shirt, right?
Yeah.
Shout out Savage and Kristen and Mortgage Coach and all that.
Yeah.
Trust Engine. How many brands does he have? I can't keep up.
Lots. We love Home IQ.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good thing, and you need to check it out if you haven't already. First Home IQ. If you're all about education. So where the hell was I going? The commission gap strategy and appraisal gap. I'm sure you know what those are. Are you because here's what I believe is and I know you probably have the same ilk here, is we need to, this is for me, I've seen the LOs that I'm working with is helping facilitating them to get in front of agents at scale with teaching classes. And one of the things that they're going to do in there is showcase how financing can help cross the commission gap strategy or appraisal gap and that kind of stuff. Are you having any of those kind of conversations with agents?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I made a company transition at the beginning of this year, and, one of the biggest reasons that I chose, I'm now at Cross Country. We've opened a new branch here in Kansas City and kind of growing the Midwest for that purpose, was because I wanted to make sure that I always had the best products to be able to help solve these problems. Yeah. And so we've got some really awesome products, and you sell what you've got, right? So but you can always sort of work, a scenario in. So Cross Country has, for a good chunk of qualified buyers, there is a product that we have called Smart Start that provides a 2% non-repayable grant.
Oh, wow.
It's not passed on in the rate. I mean, it's an awesome product. So all of us CCM loan officers, I'm sure, are using it. But here's case in point is if you end up needing some funds for a commission gap, appraisal gap, because we have an issue, we're giving you 2%, right? Most buyers are planning to have at least 3%.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put 3% down and I can give back 2%, you now have at least 2% to pay your agent. Okay. We also have a product called Buy by PMI. And so again, most borrowers can qualify for this. If you're planning to put 20% down, we will not charge you PMI if you put at least 15% down. So I've just created a 5% buffer in your budget, which more than covers commission, would more than cover an appraisal gap, right? So
cool.
We've got some really awesome products that are going to help with these things should they become issues, in the long run. So I think there's some different strategies, that you certainly can look at, and always check with your company on what's possible, right? Because we call these products these things, but they probably exist in some realm in every company. But
for sure.
But yeah, I'm promoting the way that we can come in and help absorb some of that financial concern for sure.
Well, it's and the reason why I bring those examples up is it's about solving problems, right? And you have a great opportunity to illustrate. Demonstrate how you can help solve problems as a mortgage professional. So you become something more than just a vendor.
Right.
Quick side note on the open house thing. I've been spending a lot of time like on webinars and on NAR and all this kind of stuff, and just because I'm putting all these classes together. But it's funny. There's this distinction, and you get in these realtors group. Like there's so much misinformation out there, and there's this thread that I've been following. So not to open up a rabbit hole, but like just to be clear. Buyers, when they're going to an open, this is for listeners, buyers, when they go to an open house, they do not need a agreement to go into an open house, to tour an open house or anything like that. And so if you ever want to set the record straight, yes, you can tell whoever this, because the reality is that house is being represented by the seller, right? That's on the sell side, so they don't need that. And it's, of course, not until they engage in representation. So
that's correct, right?
Well,
and here's the thing. For those loan officers that would like to bypass the realtor and get straight to the client, like go work an open house. You're going to find buyers that come in that need you. I before this NAR thing, like a couple of months ago, I did an open house, and I hadn't done one in a while, and I absolutely loved it. But I picked up five prospects, and we pre-approved a couple of them, and one is already closed. And so, I mean, it's a good opportunity that I think if people aren't going to start considering to sort of, like you said early on, like getting back to the fundamentals and the basics. And, open houses used to be, to be a big thing. And I know, just with inventory levels and the competition of the market, you couldn't keep a house on the market long enough for one.
That's changing.
But yeah, it's changing. And so, yes, you're exactly right. They do not need any representation to go through a house that, that is being marketed by the seller.
Yeah, exactly. Just for people listening. Okay, so we are just about out of time. I'm real curious, though, real quick, if you want to give me the break. By the way, your website is as beautiful, like your company website. We're going to put a link to it so people can see it. It's amazing. It's very professional.
I appreciate that. So I call it a zhuzh. That's a made up word. It's Jooj, right? So I take something and it's called just kind of like zhuzhing it up, right? Elevating it to the next level that makes me just stand out a little bit different. So I say that word a lot. It's like, hey, that's great, but what can we do to zhuzh that up? So
love it.
My website is definitely something I'm proud of. So thank you.
Yeah, we'll link it up in the show notes. And this has got me really curious as well, as you're doing this Team KG marketing thing, free on-demand marketing solution for real estate agents. So this is like marketing listing flyers. What do you want to share about this, and what's the whole strategy here?
So this has been a labor of love. So Danny, my marketing director, my friend, she and I have had this idea for a while, and thankfully to another top producing LO at CCM Matt Weaver. Shout out to Matt Weaver, the #1 LO in the nation.
Yeah.
He really helped us put this together and sort of get it off the ground a little bit quicker and faster because, you know, we had this vision and we knew what we wanted to create. And so thanks to Matt and his abilities, he was able to kind of help us implement this a little bit sooner. So this is just like you said, free marketing tool for real estate agents. So the idea here is for us to be available to help with any of their needs as quickly as possible, right? So they can pop on Team KG Marketing, request listing flyers, open house materials, have us host an open house with them. They can request buyer scenarios, any marketing assets that are, you know, needed for them to push something forward. We have a, you know, rent versus buy comparison that they can request, and now versus later, like waiting, you know, versus buying now. What does that look like? So just anything that's going to help elevate their level of service to their client too. So, you know, we want them out selling houses and making connections with clients. And so if we can, you know, do some of that heavy lifting for them, you know, that's kind of what we're all about. So again, it's just an extra value add that we are providing, you know, to the realtor population here in Kansas City. So.
Yeah, shout out to Matt as well. He's been on the show twice. Really dig what he's doing. Like the level of standard over there is crazy.
He's amazing.
I know.
He's amazing.
I learn a lot just by listening to him.
Yes,
all right, let me play real quick. Just you know, listing flyers, marketing flyers. Again, back to this whole narrative that social media talks about with real. I mean, do realtors, you know what you always hear is like, oh, realtors don't want your listing flyers. They don't want your finance flyers. What do you say to that?
Well, and that's okay, but like, are you going to go do them yourself? Like, probably not, right? So again, I've already zhuzhed them up for you. So, I mean, again, going back to the time and money scenario, right? Like if you're a realtor and you need marketing assets, you're either probably paying somebody to make them for you, or you're making them yourself, which is time, right? So again, I'm saving realtors time and money by offering these to them. So I would say my marketing assets are going to be way better than no marketing assets, right? But it's been a labor of love, and we've gone through, we fine-tuned them. I'm really proud of it. And I think that all of my referral partners would not hesitate to use our items. You know,
and hopefully, you know what, I'm not bringing that up to poo-poo the idea. I'm bringing it up to poo-poo the narrative, which I'm just so tired of seeing this narrative out there. I don't want to call BS on it because it's bullshit. It depends on the agent, right? Because to your point, if they're either not going to do it, put it this way, like back to the fundamentals. When I was coming up, man, one of the ways I got relationships was I found out the listings ahead of time, got the property address, and I created the flyer and went to the broker preview and showed up with my flyers. And this is how I friggin' got realtor business. It's just by playing that card over and over. And no one else had flyers there. And so I brought the flyers. They put them in the rack. Not always, but a lot of the times. But anyway, bottom line is, you know, I remember Champanozian said this, is he wanted to be the most valuable lender in town, right? And how do you do that? Figure out that for you. You've obviously done it a lot of different ways.
Right. Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
We are officially at time and probably gone a little bit over, but I appreciate that, the grace on that. Where would you like people who loved this interview, and by the way, if you're listening and you love the conversation, you want to connect with Katie, where would you like them to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, our Instagram, Katie NKC, I definitely would love to connect with anyone, especially, you know, female loan officers in the business. If you are feeling stuck or just not sure where to go, trying to balance, you know, motherhood and mortgages and all the things, like that's really my space and what I love to do. But, you know, certainly our website is katienkc.com, and then Instagram as well. So I just appreciate the opportunity, Jeff, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for making time. That sounds like it's got some legs though, motherhood and mortgages, right? So.
Yeah, so that's actually my tagline in coaching. So, you know, my coaching students, they,
And you're also a coach with Growth Only Coaching. So if anybody doesn't know about that, we'll link that up. It's a fantastic coaching
For
platform.
sure. Yes, I would love that. I love that. We're growing. Amazing. Like, it's so fulfilling and so gratifying. And it's like the one thing in my life that was missing is to help other people. And, you know, like I said, my path wasn't just clean and neat, but it's really, really satisfying to show people how, you know, to create a business with purpose, you know.
Right.
So,
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Listeners, you know what to do. You can find the links in the show notes, connect with Katie, let her know you enjoyed the episode. And we will see you on the next one, everybody. Bye for now.